Okay, welcome to our next part of our stoplight demo Python code. In this code, we're going to get a little bit more complex, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our original stoplight code, which looks like this, and let me run that for you so we can refresh your memory. Now, if you haven't worked through this tutorial, I would recommend that you do this tutorial first. It makes a little stoplight on the screen, and it just cycles through the lights in order like that. Nothing too crazy. We're using the turtle module for the drawing, and that's about it. So the code is very straightforward. We've got a pen, which we use to draw the border. We've got a red light turtle, and we've got a yellow light turtle, and we've got a green light turtle, and we just place them on the screen. And then here we just use a while true loop, which runs forever. Excuse me. And we change the colors from, say, gray to red, then we sleep, then we change the colors back, etc., etc. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take that and we're going to do basically the following with it, and it's pretty cool. So I'm going to run this up here, and you'll see now I've got 3 stoplights, and they're all running basically independently of each other. Now they're all on the same timing because they're from the same code. And now what I could do is I could basically just copy and paste this and say red light 2, yellow light 2, green light 2, etc., etc. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to do something called making a class. Okay, so we're going to do that, and that will make our code much more reusable, much easier to follow, I hope, and to basically, yeah, just easier to maintain if we had to make some changes. So let's get started with that. Now first, basically, I'm starting with essentially the same code I had last time. So I'm importing the turtle module. I have the turtle screen, capital S, because I get asked that question a lot. And then I change the title here, and I say stoplights with classes. And background color is black, and then at the very end, this is what keeps the window open and the events loop running. So we're going to put all of our code in here. Now, for those of you who have never done classes before, a class is basically a definition of an object, which I know that probably doesn't help, but it's like, let's say I want to describe a cube. A cube has 6 sides, or I have a die, and it has 6 sides. Different sides have numbers on it. I can roll the die. I can do different things with that. So, but I'm not limited to just one die. I can make many dies once I've defined what one die does. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a class called stoplight. So I'm going to start with the class definition and stoplight. And by tradition and convention, classes are capitalized. Okay. So the class definition, everything that's part of the class definition is indented. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create the border. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say actually, sorry, I forgot. When you create a class object, you have to define it first. You have to initialize it first. Okay, so that's the very first thing you got to do. So I'll talk about self in a minute. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create inside here, say draw the, say I'll call it the border, I guess. So I'm going to self.pen. So I'm going to create a pen that is actually a turtle instance. This is exactly what I did in the previous code, okay, except I'm putting it now inside of a class. So it's turtle.turtle. The pen should be pen up. And again, if you haven't watched the first part of this, go back and watch it. Because I'm not going to explain all those little details that are explained in that already. Okay, and then pen.hide turtle, and self.pen.speed. And from the first video, that's the animation speed. That's not the speed of anything else. And since it's the outside of a traffic light, in America at least, they're yellow. So I'm going to say yellow. Okay. So now, if you recall from the first video, anytime we create a new turtle, it starts in the middle of the screen. So 0 at like the 0, 0 coordinates. So what I want to do is I want to move my turtle up to here and draw. And basically what I'm going to do is, I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just going to copy what I did before and add the pen part to it. Oops. And which I've already done, so I'm going to just kind of short circuit that. And I'm leaving a blank space there for a reason. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so let me run this and see what happens. Well, actually nothing's going to happen. Let me add one more thing. Self.goTo. And I think the top left was minus 40, and I think it was like plus 60. Maybe 70. 60, 70? I guess I can go and check, but I don't really want to. Yeah. So, minus 30 and 60. So there you have it. And wrong one. So I got multiple windows open here. Yeah, let's do that again. There we go. 30 and 60. Okay. Now, if I run this, let's see what happens. Okay, so this is what I talked about earlier in the first video, was making sure that, don't write all the code and test it. Test it step by step. Now you'll see nothing has happened, which is what we expect. So I'm going to close that. So a class is only a definition of an object. I haven't actually created the object yet. Okay, so what I have to do is I'm going to say stoplight equals stoplight. Okay, that's a little confusing. So stoplight is the actual name of our stoplight. So this could be the stoplight at the corner of Main and Charles. Another stoplight, we have stoplight 2. That could be the stoplight at the corner of Main and North Street. I don't know. Can't think of any names. Anyway, so what happens is I've created an instance. So this is an actual stoplight object, and this is the definition of it. So I go up to here. So when I create an object, sorry about that. When I create an object, it calls the initialization function. Okay, and self. This is where self comes in. It's a little weird because it doesn't work quite like we're used to with functions. Self actually comes from here. So this stoplight that I've just created has its own pen, and for that particular stoplight, its pen has to do all these things. So self refers to this particular object. So let's go ahead and run that. And I got an error. Stoplight object has no attribute goTo. Okay, because it is self.pen.goTo, not self. Okay, so let's try that again. And again, this is part of the process. You make errors, and you look at the error message, and you fix them. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so you look here. I now have my first stoplight. Okay, so let me just show you one thing here. What I want to do is, if you remember from the beginning, I wanted to have multiple stoplights, but I need a way to move them. Okay, so what I want to do is, when I create my stoplight, I have to give it an XY coordinate. Okay, so then I'm going to go to that X minus 30, and I'm going to say X plus 60. That's how I'm going to start my turtle going. So if it's 0, 0, it's minus 30 plus 60. Let's say I started over here, which is what I did. So now you can see, if I create, say, stoplight 2, a very original name, equals stoplight. And so this one's going to start at 0, 0. This one's going to start at minus 100, 0. And stop 3. (100, 0). So I've got 3 stoplights. They all have their own pen, because remember, self comes from here. So stoplight 1 has a pen. Stoplight 2 has a pen. Stoplight 3 has a pen. And I'm starting them, or creating them, I guess I should say, at different locations. So let's run that. Okay, so not sure if that's quite what I expected. I think I messed up somewhere. But you get kind of the idea. That was it. So, why did that happen? I put X here. This should be Y. It's really hard to do these and talk at the same time for some reason. Let's test that again. Okay, so now I've got, oh, you can't see that. So I've got 3 stoplights right in a row, which is what I wanted. Okay. So now it's just a matter of creating the, the yellow light, the red light, and the green light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create them all here, self.redLight. Again, this is exactly what I did in the previous program. Okay, copy that. And so we've got a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. Okay. So I want to also do, well, let's see. I'm a big fan of like making things easy, so I'm just going to copy this. And what I can do actually is I'm actually just going to copy all this stuff because I know I'm going to be doing this a lot here. I could have done it different. I could have done them all together, but I just chose to do it this way. There's no real rule or rhyme or reason to it. And okay, so I need to do the following. I need to set the speed to 0. So I'm just going to copy and paste. And then I need to, I'm going to set the color of all of them at the start to gray. And then I'm going to set the shape of all of them. Actually, let me copy that again because I have another thing here. I'm going to have to add 2 more actually. So I need the shape. We want our traffic lights to be circles. So that should make sense. And we want to make sure the pen is up. And the last thing we want to do is we need to go to the right spot. Okay, so remember, if it was 0, 0, it was going to be, the lights are all vertical, so they're going to go to the same x coordinate. But the y, we're going to do plus 40 for the red light. For the yellow light, it's just going to be go to xy. It's the center of the stoplight. And for this one, it's going to be go to y minus 40. Now what's really cool about this is if it works, which I think it will, if it works, I only need to change the code here and it's automatically applied to every instance. So I don't need to do anything down here. All the code, all the defining code, I should say, of the class, of each object, goes here into the class definition. Let's run that and see what happens. Okay, we got an error. Okay. Turtle object has no attribute shape. So line 42. So yeah, shape. So it's hard to type and talk at the same time. Let's try it again. Let's see. Go to. I forgot the X. I know you're probably watching along at home and saying, wow, I saw that guy miss that X. Does he even know what he's doing? Yeah, sometimes. Okay, thank God. Okay, so now I've finally got 3 stoplights. So 0, 0, minus 100, 0, plus 100, 0. Okay, now the fun begins. So what we need to do is we need to keep track of the current color of the stoplight. So I'm going to say self.color equals nothing. So I'm going to say, don't know what it is yet. Okay. So then I'm going to create a new method inside the stoplight class. Okay, I'm going to call this change color self and then color. So what this does is, remember, self comes from here. Okay, so this is a class method. So what I want to do is I'm going to change the color. So the first thing I want to do actually is I need to change all of these to gray again. Okay. And then I'm going to use a couple if statements. So if the color equals red, I'm going to say self.red stoplight.color red. And self.color equals red. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So this color is being passed to this function. So this color and this color are different. Okay, although they're spelled the same, but they are not related to each other until we actually say, okay, the color of this particular object is red, but the color for this function that I'm passing is going to be red. So let's just test that real quick. So I'm going to say stoplight dot change color and red. Because red is a string. So what this will do is change the color of this stoplight. Notice self comes from stoplight. So which stoplight? This stoplight. Okay, so let's test that. Okay, and I've got a red stoplight. Notice this one didn't change, this one didn't change because of self. I only changed it for this particular stoplight. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish out that code. So elif color equals yellow. Self.yellow light.color yellow. Self.color equals yellow. Elif color equals green. Self.green light.color green. Self.color. And again, there's other ways to do this. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as humanly possible. So else, and if for whatever reason we use a weird color and we spell something wrong, I'm just going to say print error unknown color dot format color. So it'll just give us a little error message. So if I did something like, so if I made a mistake, I said, you know, stoplight dot change color, and I said blue, for whatever reason. You'll see down here an error unknown code blue, and the light just stays gray, which is what we wanted to happen. And yeah, that's that. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do, and then we're basically done, is to set up a timer. Okay, because you know the stoplights are automatic. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a function called timer. So timer, and again, inside of a class we're going to need this self. So if the color, if self.color equals red, okay, we're going to self.set color, because it goes to green after red. And now watch this one. This is probably new. wn.onTimer self.timer 2000. So what I've done here is I've set the color to green, and then I've set a new timer. What this does on timer, sorry about that, is, and this is a command part of the window, the turtle window or screen class, I should say. So after 2000 milliseconds, which is of course 2 seconds, it will call this function again. Okay, so we need to call it once to get it started, but then it goes on for itself. So self.color equals yellow, so because it goes from yellow to red. And then same thing, we're going to go ahead, set the timer, and elif self.color equals green. We're going to self.set color to yellow. And let's say we'll make it a short yellow. We only get 1 second at the yellow. That's a good point to make here. So notice this green, it turns to green, then waits 2 seconds. Okay, so that means green will be 2 seconds long. Let's make it 3 because green should be longer. Short red and a really short yellow, which is probably dangerous. So what we need to do is we need to set our stoplight to whatever color we want it to be, and then stoplight dot timer. So that will start this function, or method, depending on how you want to call it. And then, since I'm red, it will set the color to green, which brings us up to here. So everything's gray, then we change it to green. Wait 3 seconds, calls the function again. Now it's green, comes down to here, sets the color to yellow, waits 1,000 milliseconds later, so 1 second later it comes back and just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. So let's run that one more time. We've got an error. Hey, line 75, invalid syntax. I hate when I do that. Total rookie mistake. Do it all the time. Let's try it one more time. And we got an error. Stoplight object has no attribute set color because it is not set color, it is change color. I probably should use set, but live and learn. Okay, so you can see how stoplight, the first stoplight, that was very fast. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2. Okay, so you can see how it's moving basically the pace that we set. So now what's really cool about this is now that this code is done, okay, I can make as many stoplights as I want. Okay, so let's start this. Let's do stoplight 2. And let's start stoplight 2 on yellow. And let's do the stoplight 3. Oops, 3. And start that on green. And yeah, so let's run that. And here we go. We got 3 stoplights running. Now notice, again, they're all running the same code, but since they are all separate instances, they're running, basically independently of each other, which is really, really kind of cool. So what's nice about this is if you need to make a change, let's say, the law changed and we need to make sure that, the green is 4 seconds, red by law now has to be 3 seconds, and no short yellows, so cops can't give you tickets, 2 seconds. And then we could change that. Okay. We could add stoplight 4, stoplight 5, stoplight 6. It doesn't matter. So this code is a lot shorter than our original code would have been had we just copied and pasted it. Also notice it's much, much easier to update. If we wanted to change the size of things or change the color, let's say my county all stop lights are now red, and we could just change it in one place and suddenly they're all updated to red, although that's kind of weird to me. So I'm going to put that back to yellow. So yeah, so that is that. I hope this made some sense. Like I said, if it doesn't, go back and watch the first video to make sure you understand how everything worked with the original stoplight, and then watch this video again, and you can get an idea of how classes and objects and object methods and all those sorts of things, or class methods, work together. If you like this video, please subscribe or comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.